Well, welcome back everybody. This is the Nebula Vibe channel. I'm Maezy Stardust, and I just realized I don't really have an intro for the beginning of my videos, so I'm gonna work on that. But basically in this channel, we talk about spirituality, metaphysical fun stuff, as well as mental health and total wellness. And this video is part 3 of my healing from PTSD series of videos. It is a journey, it is a process, and I realized in the previous 2 episodes videos, I didn't mention something very good to note about myself. I have one of those things where neurologically I am wired to laugh when I'm in extreme pain. So even giving birth to my children naturally without any painkillers, at times I was laughing, at times I was screaming and cussing and, you know, all the moans and all that kind of stuff, but at times just uncontrollably laughing. Think Joker, but not quite Joaquin Phoenix Joker. Not quite that level, but also not that far off, just to be real. And I will inappropriately smile and laugh sometimes, especially when talking about emotionally painful things. And I make light of a lot of things, and I use levity. One of the things my dad taught me is to be able to find the joke in almost any situation. So I will talk more about that later, but if you know, I'm talking about really difficult subjects in these videos, and it is not to make fun of or make light of it. It is a natural response that my physiological system has to pain. Even when I got my, okay, this is really gross, but ingrown toenails, had them my whole life. I always stand a lot, played soccer a lot. My dad had horrible ones, and when I get surgery to get them cut, super painful. Do a big old shot, cut the needle or cut the nail, all the things, and I just giggle. I uncontrollably giggle, and I had to explain to my daughter when I got hurt one time and I was laughing, and she's just looking at me like, what is wrong with you? It's just an uncontrollable thing. Kind of the same thing of crying when I'm really happy. I'm a happy crier. It is just a thing that my body does. So to get back to the point of this video, this part 3 section is actually, I already mentioned my daughter, but talking about my second experience with a cognitive behavioral therapist. And I ended up signing up again for therapy for my second time in 2017. My daughter was born in March of 2016. And although having a baby is an incredible gift and a beautiful thing, and I wanted to be a mom, now hindsight looking back, I can see how my mom's experiences and her mom's experiences colored all of my fears, all of my worries, and you know, mom worry. We all worry about our kids and their well-being and our own bodies as we're creating another human inside. It's really bizarre. We are so the umbilical cord, shit is alien. The placenta, like it's real alien. Anyways, there's left. But what I didn't realize, and as I've stated before in these videos, I had PTSD already. I had generational PTSD as well. And when I had my daughter, even when I first got pregnant, before she was earthside, out of me, I started having dreams of her dying. My mother lost a baby that would have been my older sister. Her body was just wrecked. Her body, her emotional, energetic, all of it just wrecked from the entire experience, and understandably so. She's had chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia ever since. And every pregnancy, even my brother before that, was difficult in pregnancy, and he had to have an adrenaline shot when he was first born. So all of her pregnancies after, I have 3 older brothers that are still alive, and they were all difficult, all of them. And so I think that just pervasive fear of losing another child translated to me. And then when I got pregnant, when I waited 10 years after getting married to have a baby, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a mom, and I wasn't sure if I was able to take care of myself, much alone, you know, other little creatures that can't take care of themselves yet. And when I got pregnant, I started having all these crazy dreams. Again, the nightmares with the PTSD. And it was like every iteration of possibility of losing a child, I was dreaming about it. And then when my daughter was born, it was like every time I held her, it was this intense joy and gratitude and love. And then equal, if not more, was the fear of losing her, fear of dropping her, especially if something that I would do to harm her accidentally. And every time I was at the stairs, in my mind, I would see us falling down the stairs and her dying or me dying, or both. And it was just pervasive. It was throughout the house, no matter where I was, giving her a bath, whatever was going on, it was this constant state of fear of loss. And I started worrying about my husband, you know, potentially hurting, getting hurt, or something happened to him, you know, again, because my mom lost her husband. And so all these fears of my mom's experience translating to mine and becoming my experience were palpable in pretty much every moment of my existence. And it robbed me of the joy of becoming a new mom. And I don't know if that's how, I know some mothers that I've talked to that also had PTSD and also had generational trauma experienced it similarly, but I don't know if most women that get postpartum depression experience it in that way. I know for a lot of people, a lot of, you know, mothers or parents, there's this like death of self that happens, because the self you knew before that could do whatever you wanted and just take care of yourself or not does not exist anymore, because now you have this other creature that is entirely dependent on you for survival. And it's terrifying. It's wonderful, it's glorious, it's miraculous, but it's terrifying too, because there's so many ways you can fuck it up. And I think there's so many ways it can go right. But again, we have that overweight negative bias, like I talked about in the previous videos. And so I was in quite a state, and I finally told my husband I'm going to go to therapy again to work with my fear of loss, because it is affecting my daily life. And so I signed up again, and I got this incredible therapist. His first name is Bob, and which is great because one of my favorite characters from the Dresden Files book series that I love fantasy and sci-fi books, little side note, is named Bob, and he is a spirit of intellect that is housed within a skull that has all these runes in it and stuff. So incredible character. I enjoy him a lot, and it was funny to me that my second therapist's name was Bob, and he's a spirit of intellect. Like, he is just incredible, and he asked such poignant questions that really got to the heart of who I am, what I want, why I'm experiencing life the way I was, what I needed to do to move out of the state that I was in to be able to enjoy my life more. And he was a musician and an artist, as well as a therapist that had his own private practice. His wife was is also a therapist, and, you know, just living the dream. And he also used to be a counselor for the Army during Vietnam, and my dad was a Vietnam veteran, and that was something that was a really big resonance point for me, because I knew that I thought the root cause of my massive fear of loss was losing my dad at 14 to Lou Gehrig's disease. But now, knowing what I know and doing the research that I have done and really doing a lot of internal work, I see that it was even way before that. And then in working with my mom with the healing modality that I got trained in, I realized that the fear was not only her, like it was hers, and it started for her when she was in grade school because she had heard about a family that the dad and the kids all passed in a really gnarly car accident. And that story that her mother told her of loss imprinted in her so deeply that she, you know, still to this day, still has a massive fear of loss. And we've had a lot of it in this world, in lots of people's families, chosen families and blood families. Death is as much of a part of life as birth is, and sometimes outweighed, you know, and especially now with all the ways that we can not have kids, even though there's still places that need more support for birth control and family planning, but we still, it's just, there's a lot of people in this world, and a lot happens every single day and every single moment of every day. And when you live in that state of fear, when you live in that hypervigilance, in that, like, that waiting for the other shoe to drop, like, you have those moments, and Brene Brown talks about this in The Gifts of Imperfection. She also talks about it in her book, I Thought It Was Just Me, I think. But she talks about being at a parenting conference and talking about the situation where she's watching her daughter sleep. And it's this, like, just moment of joy and love. And then she has this horrible thought about something happening to her daughter. Something awful happening to her daughter. And she had said it in this parenting conference, and the whole room was silent after she said it. And she's like, oh shit, like, what did I say? Like, I'm crazy, I just outed myself. And then the audience just explodes, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, why did we do that? You know, people are crying, like, everybody's having a moment of like, oh my gosh, why did we do this? But I really think, I know, at least for myself, and I think for a lot of us, it is generationally stacked, because you think of, you know, we're in a, you know, the pandemic right now. Again, see, I'm making light of it. Sorry, I apologize for people that don't like levity or dark humor. I have a lot of dark humor, so I apologize sincerely if that upsets you. But the Spanish flu, the time that we're in right now, it's happened before. We've had global illnesses and losses and wars and so many things. And so the loss has, again, been very much a part of life. And Bob really helped me see the importance of living in where I am at in my life now, instead of always just digging in the past. But we dug in the past, and that was a lot of what the CBT was about, was, okay, tell me about how this thing makes you feel. Tell me about that situation. Have you thought about this? You know, and I think when we lose somebody, like a parent or a child, we assign a lot of meaning to that in our lives. And I think a lot of times there's guilt associated with it too. And I know that my dad had intense survivor's guilt from losing a bunch of his buddies in Vietnam War, and also just guilt over what he had to do being in the Army infantry. Oh my gosh, infantry. Can't say the word. But being in the Army, and being in the American Army, and doing the horrible things that he did. And I believe that honestly manifested in his illness, and a big part of it. I don't think it was just the Agent Orange. I don't think it was just the, you know, lack of body care, self-care, and the horrible food and all the other things that he did. It was just a perfect cocktail to create what he had, because it was not a genetic version of Lou Gehrig's. But again, you see how I kind of dive into the past contemplation and then back to now. So the point is that having a therapist that is trained in cognitive behavioral therapy can catch you in those moments when you get in a little loop and you talk about the same story again and again, or because we're all trying to figure it out. We're all trying to figure out our lives. We're trying to figure out ourselves. We're trying to figure out our experiences, how we feel, what it means, where do we go from here, who am I really, I think I am this person, I've been programmed this way, and then new memories and associations come up. And especially in our culture, there's a lot of repression, and a lot of people don't have access to therapy. And now we have, the apps that I'll link below. But the biggest thing for me was he worked with me. Let me see, Bob and I worked together for, I believe it was a total of like 30 sessions over almost 2 years. Yeah, and then he started to have health problems, and I went to a different therapist. And what was incredible about Bob was so many things, but he was a therapist that saw me as a whole person and didn't just talk about my illness, or didn't just talk about all the negative things and all those things that I needed to process. He also brought out and drew out all the things that I loved, and all the things that I was passionate about, and all the things that made me want to live and live well and live authentically. And I won't be here without him, and without his guidance. And it really felt, he met me as a mentor, not just as a like doctor patient relationship. It really was, he treated me like an equal. And I think that's very rare in a setting when you have, especially he was an older white male. And I think that's very, not that all older white males are that way, but patriarchy and colonialism, there's a lot of deep-seated problems with a lot of that perspective. And he worked so hard on himself his whole life to be somebody that could hold space for anybody, and to really guide people back to themselves and figure out who that truth of self is underneath all the muck, underneath all the trauma, underneath all the pain, underneath all the loss. Like, who are you really? What really matters to you? What lights you up? What makes you jump out of bed in the morning and be excited to be alive on this incredible planet? Because when we have all these other things happen, again, that negative bias kicks in, and we ruminate and we spin out, and we just focus on that thing that we're trying to solve that is outside of us to solve. And that is where professional help comes in and is literally a lifeline, literally life-saving and rejuvenating and rebuilding. And he would have philosophy conversations, theology conversations with me, psychology conversations. I remember he also gave me this list of 11 rules for being human. It might have been on like one of our first, I think it was our first visit. After talking to me, he handed me this list, and he was like, I think you'll like this. And it's something I had up on my wall for a really long time. I'll find it and probably post it below. I believe it's an anonymous writer, but it's great, and it's just a great perspective piece. And that's what it's all about. Perspective is finding balance and finding a perspective that allows you to go, okay, that's the past. Where am I at now, and what can I do now? And after working with Bob, I was in a pretty good space, and then I took a little bit of a gap, and then I had some more things go on in what was it, May of 2018 at this point. Oh yeah, so it was 1 year with Bob that I worked with him, and at the time I was a manager at a very popular tech company, retail, and the gentleman that had threatened my life that I talked about in episode, or video 2, part 2 of healing from PTSD. When I came to this tech company to work, it was right at the end of, or no, I still had my restraining order, but he showed up one morning. I left the coffee shop that I was working at. We'll bleep that out or something. So I left the company that I was working for where he threatened me, and I came to my new company, and I'm setting up the store one day, and this guy walks by the front glass in the mall, sees me and goes, and then walks off. And this was right when I started at the new company. Okay, no, I'm jumping ahead. It was 2013, still had the restraining order, I was right. And he worked at a cafe down the way. And I just got so scared, and I told my boss, she talked to their boss, and I didn't see him since. But yeah, that was, again, another tangent, but all of that was happening in stacked. That was like, again, like I said, 2013 when I started this new company, and then that stacked up to 2017, had my first baby, and then by 2018, May 2018 hit, and I'm gonna wrap up soon because now I'm at 22 minutes. That goes quick. May 2018, I was at the peak of my, I would say, symptoms for anxiety and depression and PTSD, and I would start having, like, not quite full-blown panic attacks, but mini panic attacks at work, when I saw people come in that resembled the guy that threatened me. You know, I didn't have the restraining anymore, and I got to a point where I was debilitated, even with starting therapy. And sometimes you need more than just the talk therapy, or just more talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, to work through it in a structured way. And I remember I had like some sort of health scare, something was going on, my body was acting all kinds of ways, from all the anxiety, from all the, you know, everything that I was feeling. And I was looking at some like test results from something from my healthcare, and then I did like a WebMD hole. Oh my gosh. So disclaimer, people, do not self-diagnose. I know I've said it before, but if you got symptoms going on, contact a health provider, track the symptoms, don't make assumptions that it's the worst thing. One of the things about PTSD is you assume worst case scenario. If you have any long-term trauma, loss, anxiety, depression, you know what I'm talking about. Like, instant automatic negative thought of like, oh my gosh, it's, again, that fear of loss. It's that ultimate worst case scenario that pops up in your head. And so just pause, take a breath, call your doctor. And so I had that happen, and then I had a full-blown panic attack and passed out and hit like my arm on my way down. You can kind of see my bedpost is like big, and I hit myself on the bedpost, hit my arm. And oh, here's my scar from last time, little side note. Segue. But yeah, so I passed out, and it was incredibly terrifying and disorienting, and I got to a point where I was crying at work all the time, and then I took a leave of absence, and thankfully I was able to do that. I also stepped down from management and decided to take an operations role out of customer review. And I went to group therapy, which I will talk about in my next video, because now this is pretty long and it's a lot of heavy shit, and my voice is getting a little tickly and I want to go to sleep. So before I go, key points. It takes time, especially if it's something you've been dealing with for a really long time. It takes time to heal. and you need to be gentle with yourself, and you need to give yourself grace and treat yourself like a really good friend, how you would treat a really good friend, because you are, and you deserve to be treated in a kind way as you heal. And the other thing I wanted to do before we sign off is use one of my decks here and kind of combine a little bit. So this is The Universe Has Your Back, and these were, I think, like the second. I've used my Affirmador cards before here. These are, you know, affirmations that I found, I think at like a paper source when I first started working for the tech company. That one came out. There are so many here. Okay, there's so many great ones. I think this could be a pretty great one right now. So what we're gonna do is I will read it and then I will show it to you, or I'll show it to you and then read it to you. I let go of the shadow of the past by seeing someone for the first time with the eyes of love. And honestly, this goes pretty great in talking about CBT therapy, because really you get to a point where you realize that you gotta figure out how to love yourself if you're gonna enjoy your life, because we're kind of stuck in this body until you're not. So and first it's, you know, self-acceptance, and then you can work towards self-love. And I posted this one on my Instagram page, but it is also perfect for this video. True healing occurs when I give myself permission to feel whatever feelings live below the triggers. And that is what I will finish with on CBT. The incredible thing about talk therapy, CBT therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, any kind of practitioner or healer that you work with, is they will give you the space to process. And again, we get triggered all the time by our senses, and in this society we're taught to repress, and we're taught to be professional and not show your hand or show your emotions or be too emotional, especially if you're a woman or a person of color. They are given a hard time about that a lot, frequently. And it is necessary and part of the healing process to actually allow yourself to feel whatever you feel. And that trigger happens, you feel it, doesn't mean you have to act on it and be an asshole or hurt somebody physically or emotionally, but take a breath, take a beat, take a moment, feel the feelings, you know, get your journal out, write about it, get in your car and scream if you have to. Whatever you can to process your emotions, highly recommend it. And to do so with a therapist that can help you frame that and do something productive, that's a big part of what we'll talk about with my next video, with the group therapy that I did and then the individual therapist, Irene, that I worked with. That was my last CBT therapist. And she really taught me how to transmute all the pain and really put it into my creativity and have an outlet for all those feelings that I had. And that was really when I started writing more again. Bob, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to say that Bob encouraged me in my writing, and he encouraged me to start writing by writing a song for my kitty cat that passed after my daughter was born. She was about 6 months old. My daughter was when my kitty, who was only 6 years old, passed, Maeve. And that kitty was like my doula. She was incredible. She would wrap her arms and paws around my belly when I was pregnant and just purr and just be there with me. And she passed from lymphoma, and it was really rough. And to process that loss, Bob got me to write, and he told me to write a song for her, and it turned out into a prose. And I asked him if he would put any like music to it, and he said, you know, it doesn't need any music. And I created a whole book of prose and poetry from that, and I'm working on a second. So I gotta publish the first, but I'm still writing, and it's an incredibly healing tool, journaling and writing, and that stream of consciousness style writing too, where, so this will be my last bit and that I will leave you with. If you can set a timer, so if you get triggered and you have the ability to, you can set a timer for like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes if you've got 10 minutes, and get out your phone, get out a piece of paper and pen, a journal, whatever you can do, and just write. Do not stop writing, just write until the timer goes off, or type, and just keep putting it out there. Don't try and edit it, don't try and make sense of it, just get it out. It's like a brain dump. It's like emptying your trash on your computer. Like it's just getting it out of your head, so then you can look at it, read it, and go, oh shit, that's what's in my head? No wonder why I feel like the way I do, or whatever. It's incredibly helpful. I have found it to be incredibly healing to do it, and oh my gosh, I'm at 32 minutes, so I will edit some of this out because it got really long, and I don't know if I'll keep this in, but as you notice, we'll end on a fun note, and we'll end with this. The universe works fast when I'm having fun. I decided that I was going to cut my own hair and dye it again, and I feel so much better. I love it. And I've got Bob with me, my muse, Bob Ross, Happy Lip Trees. Find some ways to have fun. And lastly, I honor how I want to feel. Honor how you want to feel. Honor yourself when you get triggered. Know that it's for your highest good, and that you can learn so much from your triggers, and especially if you start tracking them. That is a process, and incredibly helpful. So it's helpful too if you live with somebody else, and you feel comfortable telling them that you're starting to track your triggers. You can say, hey, I'm working on this. I know that I get agitated, I know that I get short, or I know that I get sad, or however you feel that you're like trying to understand. You can let them know, if you feel comfortable, that hey, I'm working on some stuff, I'm going through therapy, or I'm starting this process, I'm looking into therapy, and I'm going to be tracking my triggers so that I can talk about it with my therapist. And I just have a note in my phone, and every time I get triggered, I typically will go in the garage and breathe, and then write in my note, okay, what triggered me? Okay, I'm going to go talk to my therapist after. So I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you just found something that was useful, helpful, affirming, confirming, maybe even transformative. We'll see. But for now, take care of yourself, and I love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get notice of my next video, which will be a full moon pick a card coming up for this upcoming full moon in a week, if you're watching this when it comes out. The last full moon in February of 2021. Yeah, so that'll be coming soon. So see you later.